Welcome back, everyone, to the next lesson in the TLDR of Life course. So far, what we've gone through is, I'm going to start sharing my screen right now, is the TLDR of Life course intentions. So first we set the intentions for what we want out of this course. The next thing that we did is write down all the activities that we have within a certain day, within a certain week, a month, a year, and even over the last few years. This should pretty much encompass everything that you've done throughout the last few years. So as you saw, and as you see right now, there's over almost 200 things, activities, states of being that I've been doing and that I've recorded here. And I'm going to continue adding to them. The next thing that we did was then we started aggregating those into life domains. So we boiled all those activities and started grouping and categorizing them into life domains. You can call them whatever you want, but they're basically buckets or life domains or pillars or however you want to think about it of your life. Then we rated them based off of a 100 score, a subjective but somewhat quantitative score within each of those domains. And so we went through a video on that. And then the last step that we did was then relate those life domains to the activities that we wrote down. And so you could do that, digitally. You could have done that physically in a notebook, whatever makes the most sense and ease for you. So then from there, the next step that we're going to be doing is writing about a question and really journaling very deeply about this of what do I believe about my career. All right, so you're going to be choosing one of your life domains. I just chose career because that was the first one that I wrote down. And you're going to choose one life domain and you're going to ask a question about that specific life domain. And the question is, what do I believe about insert life domain? So why are we asking this question first? So the first life domain, or this type of question, I did get from Life Book, which is by John and Missy Bush, or I believe I mentioned it before in this course, where they start asking a few questions about what you currently believe and why you believe it, and all these things that really get to the deeper level of your brain, of your subconscious and your unconscious mind. And when you answer those questions consciously, you can bring to surface those beliefs and values and levels of identity that remain in those subconscious and unconscious pieces of your body and your mind, and bring them to the surface. So then you can address them in however way you want to then realize your best self, to achieve that life balance about which this course is about. So that's the intention with which I'm doing this. So I'm combining a few different courses, a few different things and my own questions and my own beliefs into the different questions that we're going to be asking about each of our life domains. And so this is the first question that we're going to be asking. And so I want you to go deep on this topic. I want you to go deep on this journaling, on this typing, however it looks to you, in terms of getting your thoughts about your beliefs about your first life domain that you chose from your mind to output somewhere physically. So I've chosen Notion, and I've actually written it down first in my blog, so in my physical journal, and then I published them into my blog. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to split this lesson into two parts. This is the first part, obviously. First part, I'm going to be going through part 1. I'm going to be reading this entire part 1 and part 2. And in lesson 2, or part 2 of this lesson, I'm going to be reading part 3 and part 4. So if you've been following my blog, you've already seen it or maybe read it as well. But I'm going to be reading these so you can get an understanding about me doing the actual work of this course. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so now I'll get into a thicker section of this, combining the things from Lifebook and Be Extraordinary with my own thinking, the 6LDQ. I need to pick a life domain and answer a few questions about it. Go deep. Okay, so let's just go down the line. First life domain I've selected for myself is career. This question is, what do I currently believe about this life domain of career? I look at career as the way I sustain a living. It's a way I make an impact on my world, my community. If I divide life up by time, this takes up, let's say, 40 to 50 hours a week of my 110 to 120 hours a week that I'm awake. It's about 1/2 to 1/3 of my wake time. So how I choose to allocate it is one of the most important decisions I can make. People view it as a work-life balance, but those aren't the two things that you're trying to balance. And even if it was, why is work first in that relationship? My career is simply a way for me to grow as an individual. If I'm not learning anything about myself when I'm spending half of my life doing it, then what's the point? It has to mean something to me that I get up every day and I want to go to work. I have to feel that motivation and energy to own what I own, to do what I own. That's basically, when applied to a group or organization, the definition we've come to of morale. Is the way I'm investing my energy providing even more value for the output of that? For example, with 2U, we saved over 1 million hours of doing laundry in 2019 for customers. That, I'd say, is value when, let's say, I spend 45 hours a week times 52 weeks equals 2340 hours a year doing my portion of that. Now with Laundry Lab, we're providing lifestyles, retirement incomes, generational wealth for franchise owners, along with the necessary service, smiles, and a safe space for customers. Then with the explicit community impact through organizations like Laundry Cares, I'm able to leverage my time for more disproportionate impact, then add scale into it with being in dozens of cities across the country, being able to make an impact to customers' lives in Austin, Denver, Phoenix, Boston, Atlanta, Tampa, Miami, and more. That's the impact that gets me excited to get up every morning and go to work. Another aspect to this is making the mundane appealing. Doing laundry at best is relaxing, in the middle is a chore, and at worst, a day-to-day scarcity that we take for granted. Being involved in 2U has changed my belief that I can get excited about the mission of what we're trying to achieve. In addition to the what, the who also matters, potentially more. For now, I think it's equal parts who, what, why, how, where, and when, or at least some breakdown of all of them. I realized the who was fine at Capgemini, but it was people that I didn't resonate with for the most part. They were fine colleagues, but nothing much else outside of that. Did I take the effort to get to know them better? Definitely not as much as I could have, but maybe that reflected my thoughts and feelings that most people there were temporary in my life. With 2U though, I feel like many of my colleagues I will be friends with forever now. Even if there are years in between meeting up after the company successfully exits, I feel like I would be able to seamlessly pick back up with them. The who is why I say I bought into joining 2U. The model was nothing to write home about in terms of industry, but making me feel like I belonged to a group of people who had a shared mission. The who makes me energized to come to work. In addition to the pull factors of who I would be working with, there were also push factors of who I didn't want to be working with. It wasn't necessarily anyone within my immediate team, but the overall culture was average. They say that the people who are within 2 levels of your position really define your experience at your job. I really saw that. But the direction set by those who are above those 2 levels also matters. Who is leading to the extent that you have visibility? Like at Capgemini, I didn't have a visibility with the CEO. It was the VP of North America at whatever department, and people lateral to them. And their direction and energy can make or break your experience also. Obviously, there's the aspect of your direct supervisor. That relationship has to be an open, trusting, growing relationship if I want to continue to grow. They have to be a partner in my growth. They can't take a passive role. They have to take an active role and interest in who you're becoming. There has to be that trust that you can talk to them about anything, really. I definitely feel that with Dan. We can talk for hours and hours about anything in the world, and it doesn't feel like that much time has passed. I have to not just have a good working relationship, but I think some level of friendship beyond work if I want to truly make the most of that supervisor-supervisee relationship. Part 2. Continuing from the previous day. On the flip side of that, when I am a supervisor of others, I'm sure that relationship will be just as key. I have to take the initiative as a supervisor, though, in that context to be open and transparent and vulnerable to breed that trust. That trust I want to find in others when I'm the hiring manager and looking for someone to join the team. The who can make the coefficient of the exponential be less than 1 or greater than 1. If the full trust is not there, then even 0.95 cubed goes further and further away from 1. But if you have full trust and autonomy established between supervisor and supervisee, then that becomes 1.05 cubed, which only keeps growing. On the topic of hiring, I want to work with someone who's willing to learn, is okay with mistakes, has good values, and lives by them. Can I trust them not only with my job in the company, but hypothetically with my wife and kids? I want hiring someone to be the best decision for the company I've ever made. Just like I believe that I want to prove that the best decision 2U has ever made is hiring me. That may or may not be true, but I want to feel that. And to be honest, some days I wake up with that thought in the back of my mind as I go to work. I think every person should feel like that when they are part of any organization, so they feel invested in the work that they own. I think we think of HR as a throwaway department that all companies need to have administratively. But I could argue that it's the most important department in any company. Any organization is a system, yes, but who will operate according to that system? Why does a mission and purpose exist? To impact people. At the end of the day, it's humans helping humans. And so let's create a context, the company, that allows us to do that in the best possible way. I think when I have my own organization, I want to invest the most in the people. Because people create the products, people execute the processes, people manage financials. It always comes back to people. I think right now, I currently say that I think people are the most important, the who. But maybe my actions have the why, the what, and the how above that. That's something I want to make an adjustment to. I think organizations can invest more into the hiring practices to select the people who can perform the best, but will add culture, value, trust, positive energy, diversity, and more to the team. The other thing here, though, is that there may be a best fit for the company at the time of the hire, and then there's a best fit for the company in 1 to 2 to 5 years. Those things may align and converge to the same person. But if the organization can develop that person B into becoming someone even more than they had thought possible in a longer time horizon, then that's the person I'd rather go with. Oh, what if we align the hiring practices and criteria to match what we will assess their job by during performance reviews? Because it feels like comparing the hiring criteria to the performance review criteria is like comparing apples and oranges. If that's more aligned, then who you're looking for in the job search will match who you're looking for a year or 3 years after they've joined. Can I shift the paradigm with hiring? Create an effective system where we increase the chances of success as a company because of that hire. Combining my 1,000 universe probability approach here, I think every hire should only increase the number of universes that the company succeeds in. If it doesn't, then why make it? I've already kind of touched on it, but the culture is everything. Having a toxic work culture can ruin your mental, emotional, spiritual health. What does a healthy versus a toxic work culture look like? I think you can feel it more than anything. Toxic ones impose a hierarchical nature of any organization. Supervisors believe that because they are higher than someone in an org chart, they are better than them, or whatever they say is more correct, or they can give instruction without any criticism or feedback or healthy dialogue. Toxic ones believe that work is the most important thing in their life. Side note, I think having a quick exercise during hiring of them, ranking the items that I ranked in Yad Bhavan Tat Bhavati or Samriddhi could be insightful. Just a side note. That they have to stop living the other aspects of their life to get work done after hours or on the weekend. Now if a person wants to work all those hours, off company time, then more power to them. But if one person does it, it shouldn't be expected from everyone or really anyone else. Toxic work cultures don't have space for trust or ownership or autonomy. It's basically driven from a place of fear. I think there is a fear of losing power once you have it. This is especially prevalent in politics. But that fear of losing power, I think, goes even deeper to a fear of not being accepted or a fear of not being enough. Because if they feel enough, then people wouldn't do anything to keep their job or protect their reputation at the expense of others. That they'll sacrifice the success of the company so that they look good. Because they can't bear the fact that someone made them look bad. There's a fear of failure there too. Toxic culture may say they're okay with failure and making mistakes, but their actions speak otherwise. And when other people see people getting let go because of mistakes from which that person can actually learn and still provide value, then it's the company itself that's losing out. Toxic cultures may be nice to people, but it's not genuine. It's putting on a facade so you can climb this ladder that humans have built out of nowhere. A healthy culture provides a safe space to share their ideas, feelings, and more, without feeling judged. They can give feedback without being too defensive about it. The feedback that's given is about a person's work and not who they are. However, how do I reconcile that who someone is in position will have a big impact on the outcome of the department or company? Like balancing identity feedback with output feedback. So another side note, this is potentially how I tie in identity KPIs on the team level, so it may not be seen as a personal attack. Healthy cultures allow for failure with an understanding that people will learn through these failures. You need everyone bought into the purpose, mission, values of the organization, but perhaps more importantly, the leaders of the company and the leaders of their direct teams. The trust, acceptance, and belief that the leaders have the best interests of you and the company at heart is crucial. Because if you don't, that's when those primal fears start rearing their head. That's the purpose, mission, values of the company you can buy into unquestionably. Then there's less chance that there are people who go rogue and are concerned only about themselves and not the success of the organization as a whole. Breeding the mindset that you're part of something bigger within the context of a workplace can then apply positively when the employees are involved in nonprofit work or volunteering or donating money, etc. Simply put, a healthy work culture instills a core value of a greater cause. So, that was part 1. I'm going to be continuing to read part 3 and part 4 within part 3 and part 4 of the blog in part 2 of this lesson on this life domain questions within this TLDR of Life course. So hopefully you kept up with all that. And if you want to read ahead, obviously I've been posting them on my blog, so you can do so. If you don't want to and keep it 1 week at a time, feel free to do that as well. But hopefully you go as deep as I am, since I've been spending many days and weeks really diving into some of these very important questions that will help us achieve that life balance. So thank you for listening and watching and reading maybe another lesson of the TLDR of Life course. And I will see you in part 2.